This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Just before we continue with part 2, I need to make a correction from part 1. In part 1 I referred to the two acrobat women as sisters, and people in the comment sections were quick to say that they're not in fact sisters, as they're called Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, and are actually a lesbian couple. Now from my research into this, neither the film or the book actually states that they're in a relationship. But the original author has since put out a tweet that he always intended them to be a lesbian couple. Now whether this was always the case, or if they were originally written as two elderly friends, and it's just the author pulling a J.K. Rowling to add more diversity to his characters, to fit with a modern setting, I don't know. All we do know for certain is, they aren't sisters. So thank you for the correction.
He pulled a long face, and Mother didn't like it.
She once again meets up with the cat, who shows her that this world isn't what it seems.
Stop! He's one of the circus mice!
Coraline tries to escape back through the door, but is confronted by the other mother, where things start to get a little more disturbing.
1, 2, 3!
Coraline then meets the ghosts of the 3 previous children who fell victim to the other mother, one of course being the long lost twin sister of Wyborn's grandmother. Okay, I know this scene is creepy in on itself, but what the fuck is up with this child's face?
The buttons.
Jesus. The ghost children explained that even after they had let the other mother sew buttons onto their eyes, she still kept them locked away, keeping their souls trapped in this world forever. They tell Coraline that if she manages to find their eyes, their souls can be freed. Coraline agrees to help them, and is rescued by the other Wyborn from the mirror.
Wybie?
You wanna know how I got these scars?
Coraline manages to escape back into the real world, but the other Wyborn decides to stay behind.
Come on, she'll hurt you again.
Start? I don't feel so good.
Despite being back home, Coraline finds that all is not well, as her parents are nowhere to be seen. She manages to find the real world Wyborn, who has been told by his grandma to get the doll back, to which Coraline figures out that the little doll was acting as a spy for the other mother all along, using it to find out information on what it is that the kids hate about the real world, so the other mother can create the opposite in the other world. After hearing about his long lost great aunt's soul, and how the other mother originally stole her, and how she now needs to be stopped at all costs, how do you think Wyborn reacts? Actually, yeah, I'll give him that. That's a pretty reasonable and understandable response. Coraline, meanwhile, continues to look for her parents. Wait, hold on. So Coraline's mother is using a flip phone that has to be at least from the mid-2000s? Yet earlier on we see her father using a black screen, green text computer, which I'm pretty sure were gone by the late 90s? She goes to visit the two sisters, who give her a lucky charm which is meant to help fight bad things and find lost things.
My, how convenient.
With the help of the cat, Coraline finds out that the other mother has kidnapped her real parents, so Coraline must figure out a way to save her parents, free the souls of the children, and defeat the other mother. Coraline decides to challenge the other mother to a game, where if Coraline can find the eyes of the ghost children and her parents, then she has to let everyone go. But if she fails, then she will have to stay with the other mother forever. The other mother agrees, and the game is on. Using the lucky charm given to her by the sisters, and the help from the other father, Coraline manages to find the first item.
It's dead now.
Coraline manages to retrieve the second item from the other sisters, and the third item from the other Bablinski, who is now just a bunch of clothes full of rats. Another person who is also just a pair of clothes is the other Wyborn, who has been killed by the other mother.
It's dead now.
With all the items found, Coraline heads back into the house to confront the other mother about where her parents are. The other mother is now sporting a much more skeletal look with needle-like hands, confirming that it was her we saw making the doll of Coraline at the beginning of the film. Coraline manages to find her parents trapped in one of the snow globes, and then puts her clever and calculated plan into action.
No, I'm not!
The cat manages to rip out the other mother's button eyes, but things aren't quite over yet, as the other mother flies into a fit of rage.
No!
Coraline just about manages to escape the other mother and arrives back into the real world. Her parents are safe and well, but have no recollection of what just happened, making Coraline wonder whether it actually happened at all. So with the parents safe and the ghost children's souls now freed, all is good and happy now, right?
You're in terrible danger, girl.
But how?
It's the key, miss. There's only one, and the Beldam will find it.
Coraline decides it would be best to get rid of the key to the mysterious door, so heads outside to throw it down the well. But before she can... Eventually Coraline and Wyborn manage to defeat the evil hand and send it and the key to the bottom of the well.
You know, I'm glad you decided to stalk me.
Yep, just remember that, kids. Stalking is perfectly fine and a-okay, just like Twilight once taught us.
Did you follow me?
I feel very protective of you.
The next day the family hosts a celebratory garden party, and the film ends with Coraline about to tell Wyborn's grandma about her adventure. And so all is finally good and happy. Oh, but wait, the cat disappeared behind the sign, indicating that the path between the real world and the other world is still open. Ah! And so that was Coraline. So what are my thoughts? Well, it is definitely a very interesting film, both with its plot, characters, and visuals. The animation is definitely the high point of this film. The stop motion is incredibly smooth, to the point that you even forget that it's stop motion half the time, as it provides a lot of energy and movement on screen. Two scenes I particularly liked are the mice performing their little circus dance, and oddly enough the three dogs showing their affection for Coraline as they surround her. I don't know why I was drawn to this particular scene, it was just incredibly cute and made me smile. The way they circle her as well just reminds me of a fun fair roundabout. I love the use of camera angles as well, which gives the film much more dynamic visuals. The character designs are very varied, giving each character their own stylization. Though perhaps sometimes there's a little bit too much stylization. But this design and stylization also translates into their personality, such as the transitioning shot we get of the other mother as she begins to show her darker and more malicious side. Speaking of transitions, there are also some really nice scene transitions in this film, used to help flow one scene into the other. I also noticed the clever use of colour to help portray a contrast between the real world and the other world. The real world uses a much darker and a much blander colour palette, contrasted with the other world that has a much more vibrant set of colours, which help emphasise the level of wondrous and fantasy going on. I also like the colour palette used for Coraline herself. Her bright yellow raincoat, red bag and blue hair contrasts her from the calmer, more natural colours used for the real world, not only helping her pop out from the background, but also representing her bright and excitable personality compared to the dull world that she lives in. And finally, I just need to make a quick mention of the moments where the CGI and 2D animation is combined into the film, such as when the other world is starting to break apart. Basically, from an animation standpoint, this film is fantastic for it. The music fits the film style perfectly, offering a sort of a cappella style, which on surface level seems to have a very upbeat and jolly vibe with the instruments, but the chanting over the top definitely helps the film build on top of its quirky and eerie feel. Perfect example of this is the track used to play over the opening sequence of the doll being made. But then you also get tracks that are much softer feeling and more ambient, such as when Coraline is exploring around the house. There were, however, some issues I had with the film. The first is being with the character Wyborn. Now, I mentioned at the start that I would talk about one of the key changes made from the book to the film, and that change is Wyborn himself. In the book, he simply doesn't exist, and you can kind of feel that in the film. Apart from trying to provide a little bit of comedy relief, Wyborn doesn't really contribute much to the film at all, and the plot could happily function just fine without him being in it. It just feels like the film is building him to something, but it never actually amounts to anything. You think he's going to join Coraline in the other world to help take down the other mother, but instead, he just runs away, only appearing again at the very end to smash a rock on the severed hand. I'm not really sure what the point was to add his character to the film. I mean, Wyborn? More like, why bother? Another issue I had was with the parents. The parents do feel a little bit too douchey at the start of the film. Like, I get that they're stressing out with the work on their catalogue and all, but they do treat Coraline with a little bit too much neglect. So when we see them playing all happy family at the end, it doesn't really feel earned. Considering the parents weren't aware of any of the events Coraline went through, it's not as if they had a character arc which would have changed their personas. I get the fact that the real world needs to be unappealing in order to make the other world more appealing, and to justify Coraline's curiosity to enter it, even turning a blind eye to all the red flags about it. But I think a better way to have handled this would maybe to have been make Coraline a bit more bratty and less understanding to her parents, and then through the events she goes through, she learns to appreciate her parents for what they are. And it gives her the character arc rather than her parents. Aside from that though, this was a very good film. It has a compelling story, our two main characters Coraline and the other mother are very well written, and despite all the creepy stuff going on in the film, it does get quite sentimental in places.
Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad.
I'd say go give Coraline a watch. Though I must warn, after seeing some certain scenes, by the end of it, you may end up wanting to sew buttons into your own eyes. Just want to give a quick shout out to Squarespace, who are this video's sponsor. Squarespace is a platform which allows you to easily build your own website, even if, like me, you have no website building experience whatsoever.
No, what are you doing?
They offer pre-built templates and a simple interface which offers easy customization. You can also import content from your Twitter and Instagram page, which is obviously great for anyone trying to build an online presence. If you'd like to give it a go and get 10% off your first website, click the link in the description below, or go to squarespace.com/SteveReviews.